Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today we're giving a countdown of the top 10 cannabis industry news stories of the week. On the line with us is Dan Kimmis of Good CBD Products.
I dig it, a top 10, Chronic. What happens if we have 11?
It'll probably blow up the whole system, so we're going to stick with 10. Number 10 being that there was an OK Boomer meme used to slam Trump's advisor being old school marijuana. His views are outdated, I guess. So the meme said, quote, OK Boomer, that's a very boomer approach to marijuana, if for no other reason that it's actually THC, not TCH. So Trump's advisor had tweeted something out or made something public about TCH and just not really understanding that the entire country is more on board than they ever have been with cannabis and legalization. And so maybe a little bit tone deaf in the administration, a little too busy maybe.
I doubt that. Not this administration. No way.
No, they're on top of it. Aurora might be on top of it as well. Number 9 of news stories in the week is that the CEO is looking at the U.S. amid looming carnage for the Canadian pot industry. Nothing new if you've been listening to Talking Hedge. I don't think any of them are going to survive once U.S. legalizes unless they utilize their first mover advantages and come down here and have a deep entrenchment in the U.S., especially California. So Aurora Cannabis has suffered trading down 51% over the past year. So Terry Booth continues to remain optimistic about the company's prospects. Both highlights how the U.S. remains a crucial market for its CBD product ambitions, while reiterating that the firm's focus on governance and managing its finances to retain investor confidence in an industry beset by steep losses. I mean, it's not about speculation. This is about revenue generation, right? Maybe 3 years ago was about just LOIs and kind of increasing your awareness. But if you're not generating revenue at this point, you're going to find yourself out of a job.
So I spent Thursday and Friday dialing all over Canada on a project. One of the things that was really interesting is the pressure that the Canadian markets are feeling, all the way over to the marketing people with regards to revenue generation. So, yeah, big time, huh? Got to make some bread.
It's been the same really for the last couple of years in terms of the way they do business. I find it fascinating. They all want exclusivity. They all want their own little thing. And I find that the market up there is early. It's new. It's maybe too much cannabis and not enough, agriculture, mainstream. There's going to be a lot of waves, a lot of people going out of business. I don't think any of them are going to be a legacy living long term. So we'll kind of have to see what happens as time goes on. Number 8 on the news is that Michigan is a new state. They're bordering Canada up there. They've banned vitamin C acetate, but I think they got over $250,000 on their first day of sales.
So it begins. I'm looking forward to going to Michigan, brother.
Absolutely. I think, once they get up into, Midwest, there's a lot of states around there. Wisconsin, they aren't allowing it right now, which is a huge college town, farming town. What else are they going to do? But, give it to, Detroit needs some cannabis, spread it on all the way to Boston so that Maryland, some people in DC can consume a little bit, give it to New York to make it mainstream and not just California surfer community culture, but mainstream. So it's going to make its way.
It's funny. The gaps between the haves and the have-nots keep closing, right? And you find yourself in a place where it used to be, geez, I got to make a 3-state run to go pick up a sack. Now you got to only make like a state run.
It's interesting. We're going to get into Google searches for states, and I find it fascinating that people that we both know are looking at trying to get out of Washington, right? 5-6 years now down the line, either you're in business or you're not. And so looking at maybe trying to make the transition from medical to recreational in another state. If you haven't done it already and you've been here, you're not going to do it. That's really just my advice. I don't care who you are. If you've been struggling for 5-6 years to make the transition, it's never going to happen. So my advice to this individual was go to a medical state. This particular person is from the South. Go there. Go and make CBD. Go make THC for medical. Get out of here. Why are you thinking about going to Nevada That's crazy. MJ BizCon is next week. We'll be there, but we're not looking to do business in there. We're looking for new states and new opportunities, like New Jersey. They decriminalized ahead of the 2020 legislation ballot. So New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy announced on Tuesday that he'll be working with lawmakers to advance legalization to decriminalize marijuana possession after the legislature failed to produce a passable bill to more broadly legalize cannabis. New Jersey was supposed to legalize 2018 and 2019, still hasn't happened. But again, my thing is move into a medical state so you can get established and then ride that wave to legalization or regulation.
It's funny, New Jersey is huge. I mean, it's one of these states. It reminds me a little bit of like a chunk of California or something like that. There are a lot of people in New Jersey, Chronic. There's going to be a lot of weed sold. I was talking to one of the press guys over there.
Looks like I actually skipped one. So let's go back to number 7 about the illicit cannabis supply outpacing the regulated market. In other words, the regulated market is taking 28% of the illicit market. It's not the other way around. The illicit market used to have 100% of the market share, and then now it's reducing. In other words, the regulated market is starting to take market share away. So it's always funny the way that they kind of make this sound like, ooh, the illicit market is taking over. No, they've been there the whole time. We're just slowly starting to take market share away from the legacy market. So New Frontier data cultivation report showed that legal and illicit output by state, the estimated cultivation in the U.S. for 2019 is forecasted to reach 29.8 million pounds, expected to be 34.5 million pounds by 2025.
So funny. You know, we get out in the field a little bit, we get running around. You're actually seeing the legal market creating new black market customers, right? The market's expanding. Part of the reason the market's expanding is cannabis equals good. And geez, you know, 50% taxes in California coming, these high tax rates. The next thing you know, you turn on a customer, and then that customer can't help but be loyal to their checkbook, Chronic.
Yeah, black market has gotten super savvy with packaging and cartridges, and just they're keeping up. So whatever the regulated market is putting out there, the legacy market is following up with cheaper products. Just got to be careful with vitamin E acetate and things like that, that you don't know what's in it. Number 5 on the list is that no need to worry about cannabis industry, according to Canopy Growth. So Canopy Growth struggled to meet its earnings goals over the past few quarters. So the company is citing a lack of accessibility to legal cannabis in Ontario, the largest market, as a major problem. Canopy is in a, quote, amazing position compared to other cannabis companies because it has, quote, incredibly strong cash balance sheet. That's not going to help when you still expect to sell prices at $1.74. It's just a matter of time before you are no longer a going concern and your cash runs out. That's literally just a matter of time. When you're hiring Snoop Dogg and Seth Rogen and what's her name, Drake, all these people, like, you're not going to have any money at the end because you're not producing anything. So they're on my list of not being around 5 years from now.
Did you ever smoke a joint because some celebrity told you to?
Never. I like quoting Snoop Dogg, smoke weed every day. But no, I don't smoke Snoop Dream. I'm not inspired or motivated to do anything that any rapper tells me.
So you're not influenced. I wonder who would influence you. Probably some prospective capital analyst, right? If Kramer told you to smoke some weed, you might.
There is an analyst, his name's Jim McCrae of Straight Line Analytics, and he did a report on infused joints being moldy and all this stuff, and it changed my entire method over the last 2 years. I no longer vape because of the Eagle 20 herbicide that turns into carcinogen and the mold in flower. I no longer really buy joints. I buy my own from the legacy market. We'll call it medical, whatever you want to call it. I buy $500 pounds, and I've been doing that for 2 years, and I smoke a lot of blunts. I know that's a guilty pleasure with tobacco, whatever. That's how I roll, literally. And it's been 2 years now. I started this November of 2018, and I've gone through, I've purchased 3 pounds, but I have 3/4 of a pound just chilling. So I've gone through more than 1 pound this year, whereas last year I was a little bit better. But talking about lots of weed, number 4 on the list, DEA finalizes a plan to grow 3.2 million grams of cannabis this next year. So the DEA proposed in 2020 production quotas in a notice published by the Federal Register in September. The Drug Enforcement Administration finalized a plan to authorize the cultivation of 3.2 million grams of marijuana for research purposes next year, a 30% increase from this year's quota. So that's not bad. 3.2 million grams into 453 is 7,064 pounds. That's not bad.
You know, imagine you're a government employee and a master grower. Ooh, how does that even work?
I'm not sure it's going to be any good. I mean, government cheese is supposed to be decent, but government weed sounds terrible. I don't know. I might stick to
Don't knock
Mexican
the
turkey.
cheese, Chronic. Don't knock the cheese.
Yeah, the UK cheese is actually a great strain. If they were to grow that, who knows? Number 3 on the list is that Trump says drug prohibition doesn't work. I guess he said that during some vape meeting. He acknowledges the failure of policy prohibiting drugs during the meeting on vaping. Quote, when you watch prohibition, when you look at the alcohol, you look at cigarettes, you look at it all, if you don't give it to them, it's going to come here illegally. That's one problem I can't seem to forget. So we've been saying this the whole time, that this is about money. He has $1 trillion transportation package and another $1 trillion package called cannabis legalization. But again, the conservative constituents won't allow for it until there's an economic reason for that to happen. That's just a matter of fact. It's about money.
You can't believe a word that guy, excuse me, I have an opinion. You can't believe a word that guy says. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him. And the only reason they're going to legalize the weed is to, drag a bunch of the middle over their direction. I say just be civilly disobedient, Chronic. Let's do some civil disobedience. How about that one?
Yeah, I've been doing that for more than half a decade. And to add to your point, bipartisan politics is about as real as unicorns. And so you have to remember that unlimited financial contributions and lobbyists are the only ones whose decision matters. And so the administration doesn't matter whether it was the last guy or the next guy, the current guy, it doesn't matter. Unlimited financial contributions are the only thing that makes anything move in the Capitol. That's why cannabis will become legalized, is because it has a lot of money behind it. That's it. It's not about the kids, not about anything other than money. Number 2 on the list is that cannabis stocks drop amid concerns over FDA's most recent round of CBD warning letters. So this kind of flew under the radar. I didn't even hear about these 15 letters, but it's interesting that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is back into the spotlight. They issued 15 warning letters to cannabis companies warning about making claims. And some of these companies you can see on the screen here, or if you're listening, I'll just read them off real quick. Koi, Pink Collections, Noil, Natural Natives, Whole Leaf, Infinite Product, Apex, Bella Rose, Sunflora, Healthy Hemp, Private Eye Salon, Organics, Red Pill, Sabal, Daddy Burt. Companies I've never heard of, right? And that's why they're super small. It's just like John Smith threw his name and face on it in California and is like, I can heal your Crohn's disease, and you have tendinitis or whatever. They're making claims left and right, and so FDA is coming in and slapping all these companies, but they won't be around anyways. 9.5 out of 10 of these companies aren't going to be around in a year. All of these white label, private label companies have absolutely no margin. And so when companies start developing and shipping product out of Puerto Rico at a 4% corporate tax cap, all of these guys are gone, done. They don't have the margins to stay in business.
Well, I would say they're going to need to white label somebody else. It's not, some of them might be around, but the origin product, most of these companies aren't even making the origin product. They're just writing the letters that go on the packaging.
It'll be very similar to the coffee industry when Starbucks lowered their prices and then pushed all of mom and pops out of business. It'll be very, very similar to that collapse when all of these companies who don't have the margin, who aren't growing CBD, who don't have access to inexpensive wholesale products, and all they have is a brand without IP, without trademarks, without really anything, there's going to be a massive amount of companies that go out of business because they don't have really any business to begin with.
It's all fun and games until the manufacturer, the house, decides that they want to compete with you. then all of a sudden you find yourself where you can charge $3 and they can charge 2, and there's not a dang thing you can do about it. And we've seen it happen in different businesses time after time. Eventually, the people who built the market get displaced. It's American business. It's the way it works.
I think we jumped the gun on the number one article of the week. The Midwest states are breaking into the recreational market and expecting huge crowds. So legal sales began Sunday in Michigan. There's a handful of dispensaries in Ann Arbor that plan to be open for business. They're expected to begin New Year's Day.
So a couple of jurisdictions just opened. You've got some more opening. And so, yes, there are a couple of places where, yep, they cranked a little bread out. And at the same time, really, it's kind of like it was in Washington in 2015, 16, right? I mean, it's a little different. There's been some development, some history, some other things that have gone down. But the Midwest is about to be a boom town, brother.
Definitely a boom. 221,000 among 3 stores for Michigan. So they're starting off on the right foot. It's got nowhere to go but higher.
Hey, point of perspective. So there's a store in Washington that does $3 million a month called Remedy, just as a general measure. So there you go. That's where it's going to go in some of these places.
Right. Yeah. As soon as you start to see rock bottom prices and, there's going to be online sales and delivery and all of these methods is going to increase sales dramatically. So 221,000 is a good start, but you'll start to see 3 million a month in no time. Just going to have to come back to the Talking Hedge and find out who's doing it. With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. By the way, if you enjoy the content, please show your support with the cushy gesture of $4.20 a month on the Talking Hedges Patreon page. This will kind of help me spread the word. I've been asked to speak all over the world, from Toronto and Colombia, Spain, Miami, all over, Tokyo. But your support's important to me. I haven't monetized the podcast. I want to be as authentic and transparent as possible. I want to avoid conflicts of interest or even the perception of paid opinions. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or pay me on the Talking Hedges Patreon page, or don't, and I'm out.